It is 7:30 a.m. on a rainy Tuesday morning, and you are waiting in a long, slow drive-through lane. Right next to you, two cars are idling side by side. On the right is a spotless, shiny new BMW X5 with temporary dealership tags. On the left is a faded 2014 Honda Civic with a small scratch on the front bumper. Be honest, look at both drivers. Have you already privately decided which one of these two people is winning the financial game? Have you already assumed who has the higher net worth? The truth might surprise you. The driver of that old Honda Civic is very likely sitting on a massive investment portfolio. Meanwhile, the driver of the brand new BMW is probably just two missed paychecks away from losing everything. This is not a fluke. It is a powerful, invisible strategy called voluntary poverty. It never trends online because it has no flashy look, no unboxing videos, and requires looking totally ordinary on the outside so you can be wealthy on the inside. In this video, we will look at the real math behind why high earners feel so trapped, use real data, and walk through a simple psychological system to change how you handle your cash flow. You will want to stay until the end, because we are going to look at the invisible ceiling, the exact spot where making more money actually starts making you feel poorer if you do not change this one habit. This is not about skipping your morning coffee or giving up things you love. It is not about feeling bad. It is simply about making a hidden trade-off clear so you can choose true freedom over just looking rich. If you want to build real wealth, take a second to subscribe. When you look across the country today, you see a very strange pattern. National financial surveys show that a massive number of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. It is easy to look at that data and assume it only happens to people who do not make enough money. But if you look a little closer, the numbers tell a very different story. More than half of the people making six-figure salaries, specifically those earning between $100,000 and $250,000 a year, report that they are also living paycheck to paycheck. They feel completely stuck. This shows us that feeling broke at this level is not an income problem at all. It is a strategy problem. The money is not disappearing because of small daily habits. The real drain is happening in the big, fixed costs of life. People are signing up for massive car loans and stretching their budgets way too thin to live in homes they can barely afford. In fact, the average American now spends over $700 every single month just on a new car payment. Before they even pay for a place to live, their chance to build real wealth is already gone. It is important to understand that upgrading your lifestyle the moment you get a raise is not a character flaw. It does not mean you are greedy or weak. It is actually a deeply hardwired survival mechanism built right into your brain. Long ago, our ancestors lived in small tribes where storing extra resources was impossible because food would simply rot. Back then, the only real way to save wealth was to turn it into social status and prestige. If you shared what you had and showed others your value, the tribe would respect you and protect you when times got tough. Showing status was how you survived. Today, that old tribal drive is triggered by the technology in our pockets. Algorithmic social feeds on apps like Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube constantly show us the top 1% of everyone else's spending. Our brains see these images and sound a false alarm, telling us we are falling behind the rest of the tribe. This constant pressure takes a real toll on us. Dr. Tim Kaiser, the author of a book called The High Price of Materialism, studied this exact issue. His research proves that environments that focus heavily on materialistic values actively increase our anxiety and decrease our long-term peace of mind. We are trying to satisfy an ancient survival instinct using a modern system that is designed to make us feel like we never have enough. To see how this trap works in daily life, we have to look at an idea called hedonic adaptation. This concept was first studied by researchers named Brickman and Campbell. It explains that no matter how much we upgrade our lives, our happiness always returns to a normal, flat baseline. Think about the emotional timeline of a major lifestyle upgrade, like moving into a luxury apartment. For the first 30 days, you feel a massive emotional high every time you walk through the door. By day 90, however, the magic starts to fade. The beautiful new space simply becomes the default background baseline of your normal day. By day 180, the excitement is completely gone, and your brain naturally begins looking for the next upgrade to get that same good feeling back. The real danger is the massive gap between our emotions and our finances. Your emotional high disappears in just a few months, but you are still stuck with a rigid 12-month lease or a 72-month car loan. The feeling fades quickly, but the financial commitment binds you for years. Let us look at the actual math by tracking a standard $1,500 a month lifestyle creep package. This is the extra amount you spend when you move away from a simple, modest lifestyle and upgrade to a luxury apartment, a financed car, and premium subscriptions right after getting a big promotion. The headline price is only the beginning. When you tear down the real costs, you find a whole chain of hidden expenses tied to these upgrades. A fancier car means higher insurance rates, a need for premium fuel, and more expensive maintenance. A bigger apartment brings higher utility bills and lifestyle taxes. If you took that same $1,500 a month and put it into a conservative index fund growing at 8%, the numbers grow quietly but massively over time. In 10 years, that money becomes about $270,000. In 20 years, it climbs to around $880,000. And in 30 years, it compounds into a staggering $2.2 million. When you look at it this way, the true price of looking successful in your late 20s and 30s is not just $1,500 a month. The real price is a $2.2 million penalty paid directly out of your future retirement security. The true cost of these choices does not stop with just one item, because status-driven spending has a way of multiplying itself. To understand how this works, we can look at a specific idea in economics known as Veblen goods. These are special items that actually become more desirable to people as their price tags go up. The high price itself is the main selling point, because it signals exclusivity and tells the world you can afford it. Once you buy one of these items, a psychological pattern called the Diderot effect quietly takes over your mind. This phenomenon happens when getting a new possession creates a sudden spiral of consumption. You start buying more and more new things, simply because you feel you need them to match the quality of the first item. We see this happen all the time in our cultural habits. For instance, if you buy a luxury vehicle, that single choice silently starts demanding changes in other parts of your life. Suddenly, it feels wrong to park that car outside a budget hotel when you go on vacation. You feel a subtle pressure to book a more expensive resort instead. From there, the chain reaction keeps moving. It slowly alters your dining habits, your clothing choices, and even your social circles, all to maintain the visual illusion that the first purchase created. One upgrade becomes a silent chain that drags your entire budget along with it. To see how these choices play out over time, let us look at two people named Alex and Ben. Both are 28 years old, both work in the same industry, and both just received a major promotion that brings their income up to $120,000 a year. They start from the exact same baseline, but they choose two entirely different paths. Alex decides to make the status-driven choice. He moves into a luxury condo, signs a lease on a brand new sports sedan, and regularly dines out at expensive restaurants with his colleagues to match the vibe of his new position. Ben, on the other hand, chooses to feel broke on purpose. He keeps his monthly rent low by staying in his modest, older apartment. He continues to drive his reliable, older car, and he immediately sets up an automated system to save his extra income. Day to day, Ben feels like he has no money to spend because his checking account balance is always kept very low. A decade later, at age 38, we can see the hard numbers. Over those 10 years, both men earned the exact same salary. Yet, Ben now has over $450,000 in liquid wealth and total career flexibility. Alex has only $4,000 in his savings account. He is completely trapped in a stressful job he dislikes because he absolutely needs the monthly cash flow just to service his lifestyle debt. This brings us to a helpful metaphor: the faucet and the lake. Income is simply the water flowing out of a faucet. It does not matter how fast or hard that water runs if you do not have a strong basin to trap it. Real wealth is the size of the lake you build over time, not the pressure of the faucet. To move away from this trap, we can use a simple, 5-step framework called strategic poverty. The first movement is out-of-sight automation. The rule here is to split your paycheck before it ever hits your main account. This works because human brains adapt to friction. If the money is not sitting in your primary checking account, you naturally think it does not exist. To execute this, change your direct deposit so that 30% of your pay goes straight into a separate brokerage or high-yield savings account. The second movement is the ghost baseline. The rule is to always live on the salary you made 2 years ago. This mindset completely freezes lifestyle creep while still allowing your income to grow. In practice, every time you get a raise or a bonus, 100% of that new increase goes directly into your investments. The third movement is status decoupling. The rule is to look for personal validation on the inside, and look for usefulness on the outside. This helps separate your self-worth from the things you buy. You execute this by purchasing items based entirely on how well they work, not because of the brand name printed on the front. The fourth movement is the 72-hour liquidity buffer. The rule is that any single purchase over $200 requires a strict 3-day waiting period. This forces the sudden rush of excitement in your brain to cool down before you part with your cash. Simply put the item in an online shopping cart, close the browser tab, and reevaluate how you feel 3 days later. The fifth movement is the broke by choice allocation. The rule is to intentionally keep your checking account balance low. This uses a scarcity mindset to your advantage, because when you see a small balance, you naturally look for ways to economize. On the 25th day of every month, manually move whatever cash is left over directly into your investment accounts. If you find value in these frameworks and want to support our work, consider joining our channel membership community today. We have to be completely honest with ourselves here. You can set up all the automated bank transfers and 72-hour waiting rules you want, but they will eventually fail. They fail if you do not face the deeper truth beneath it all. Many times, we are just running away from the fear of looking irrelevant to our peers. This is not a math problem, it is an identity problem. It requires a major shift in how you view yourself. You have to move away from the desire to look rich, and move toward the deep desire to actually be free. Exploring that specific psychological shift is exactly what this entire channel is built around. Let us look back at that morning drive-through line one last time. Think about those two cars idling side by side. Armed with what you know now, that brand new BMW does not really look like success anymore. Instead, it looks a lot like a beautiful golden cage. And that faded Honda Civic does not look like a financial struggle. It looks like an invisible fortress of personal freedom. True financial power is not about what you can buy, it is about what you can walk away from. Stop spending your future to convince complete strangers that you are doing well today. Learn to embrace the feeling of being broke on purpose, so that one day, you never have to worry about actually being broke again.